You don't start a company because you want to start a company. You start a company because there's this massive problem that you're feeling yourself and you're the best person to solve it. And finally, that moment arrived where being a VP of sales and having a lot of data behind decisions, I was really struggling with not being able to get the same level of granularity with all of our face-to-face event type leads.
Hey, Zach, I'm super excited to have you join me for this episode of Coffee with Closers.
Thanks for having me, Samuel.
Awesome, man. I was looking through your LinkedIn. You have just tremendous amount of experience working at some really fast growing companies. And you were even a founding member of the Sales Hacker publication and also was running a chapter in Utah. So you have a lot of experience working in so many different organizations and building and scaling those companies. And then now you run Moly. Can you share with our audience a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, how you got to where you are and where you got the idea for this product?
Yeah, absolutely. As is the case for most salespeople, I'm just an entrepreneur at heart. That's why a lot of people get into sales, because they want to control their own destiny and not be placed into a box. I joined my first startup literally right out of school. It was a bootstrapped fintech company where I needed a job. I was getting married. I had just torn my knee apart and was hobbled around with big medical bills. And I just started applying for as many jobs as I could. I stumbled into this company called Gemini, which was building a marketplace for people to shop for mortgages without having their credit pulled or their lead sold. And it was super fun. I didn't realize how early stage it was when I first interviewed until I showed up the first day and realized it was literally just me and the CEO in a suite that's barely bigger than my home office here. It was a blast. I was in charge of everything customer facing, selling deals, working with lenders and building those strategic partnerships, building channel partnerships with title companies, home builders, real estate agents, you name it, plus the customer success side of things. So I was there for 3 years. I handled a lot of it myself, hired a small team under me, and it was a blast. I learned a ton, but also learned that I didn't want to be the grind for forever in a bootstrap company type career. I just wasn't getting paid a lot of money. And the CEO didn't really have much of a desire to make it a huge thing. It was more of a lifestyle business. We decided to go our separate ways, and I ended my time there very amicably. We're still good friends, and went into the venture-backed life. Several different companies as hire number one or sales hire number one, just to go and figure things out. That's what I learned really early on. I'm really good at it, is building the machine. So I'm a decent closer, I'm a decent leader, but I'm a really good machine builder. I'm really good at making things repeatable. So I did that at several different companies. And a handful of years ago, I pivoted to a little bit later stage. So I helped run US sales for a company that at the time was publicly traded out of Sydney, Australia, called Nearmap. They do aerial imagery, competing against the likes of Google Earth, but they fly airplanes instead of satellites. And they were just really struggling to build the predictability engine, hence bringing me in to help with that. Spent 3 years there. Their US business went from $5 to $30 million. I was quite successful. And then from there, I went onto the private equity side of things and served as a drop-in sales operator for a group out of Tennessee that owns a bunch of automotive software companies. And it was really those last two experiences where I always knew I wanted to start my own thing, but I have done enough research and I've rubbed shoulders with enough founders to know that you don't start a company because you want to start a company. You start a company because there's this massive problem that you're feeling yourself and you're the best person to solve it. And finally, that moment arrived where being a VP of sales and having a lot of data behind decisions, I was really struggling with not being able to get the same level of granularity with all of our face-to-face event type leads. The attribution was hard, the follow-up was hard, and our win rates were super low compared to every other lead channel. The more I researched, the more I realized, holy crap, this section of go-to-market is so underserved with technology, so underserved with just processes. Digital marketing, they have the likes of HubSpot and Marketo, and sales reps have engagement tools like Outreach and Salesloft, but event marketers are stuck in spreadsheets. And paper clips and duct tape. And that just didn't make sense to me because it's such a huge component of a go-to-market engine. So we decided to build Moly as the solution. We're building the central hub system of record for event marketing to make it just as powerful of a lead channel as any other source of contacts.
Yeah. And that was a lot of good stories there. I want to get something out of you. You mentioned you were brought on as the guy to build a machine that can bring predictability. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What went into building that predictability in some of those companies, even the company that's a public company in Sydney, Australia, but they just didn't know how to make predictable revenue? Like, what was the secret sauce that you had that helped those companies to grow?
Yeah, that company in particular, when I joined in 2017, they owned 25% of their TAM in Australia and thought that they could come to the US and have the exact same level of success by blinking and saying, hey, we're here. But the reality is, being an aerial imagery company, there's really 5 cities in Australia and there's hundreds of cities in the US. There aren't really competitors in Australia. There's a bunch of competitors in the US, unless the buyers are much more sophisticated as well. So they needed help with prospecting. They needed help with data hygiene and actually serving up the attribution to know what levers you need to pull to repeat it. And just setting like proper expectations instead of people just sitting there waiting for customers to call in. Yeah, big things that I did is I hired the right types of people. We parted ways with people that weren't the right types of people, the people that wanted to grind and that were good with their discipline on activity logging and consistency. And then we zeroed in on who our buyers were and focused on them and not on anybody else. And just set daily goals. This is what we're going to do on a day-to-day basis. We're going to have this many conversations. We're going to create this many opportunities and do it day in and day out to build that predictable engine.
Obviously, you worked at early stage and venture backed and obviously growth stage companies, and you've learned a lot, right? Worked on the venture companies itself as a use the sales head to be able to go to a company that they acquire and build out the machine. So what were some of those things that you saw, those universal principles that you were able to bring to Moly to immediately from day one to start to see progress and growth?
We got the right tools in place from day one. A lot of founders, they romanticize being super scrappy, which like we are too. We're a very scrappy team, but there are things that we don't skimp on. And one of those things is having the right software and tools in place, because I understand the orders of magnitude of efficiency that are driven by investing a little bit in a good marketing automation platform and a good CRM. And I also know how freaking expensive it's going to be later on down the line if you cheap out on the CRM and then have to do a big migration project in a few years. So we bit the bullet, spent a little bit more money up front to implement the tools that we wanted and not have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars later to fix it. That's one big thing. And then I would say the importance of being loud and out there in the wild so that people have the opportunity to learn about you, even if you're on a budget, when it comes to ad spend and things like that. So Chris, my co-founder, and I, we're both just incredibly loud on social media. We're actively talking, educating people, connecting with people, and giving them an opportunity to learn about us. They think we're much bigger than we are because we're so active and loud everywhere we go.
And define loud. One thing is just frequency of posts. What is it that are you talking contrarian viewpoints on how your product or services solve a problem, or what exactly do you mean by loud?
Yeah, not necessarily like obnoxious or controversial, but more just posting frequently, networking with people, and not just sitting in the background. We connect with lots of new people each day. We actually engage in conversations with them. We participate in commentary on their content, not just hoping people come to our content. And we all post very consistently, multiple times a week for every person.
And what does that look like from a cadence standpoint? Do you have a time blocked on your schedule to be able to invest time into that? And how does that thinking comes forward, like from a topic ideation standpoint?
Yeah, I haven't been as good lately as I historically have been because just a lot of travel. But typically every weekday mid-morning, is I'll post something and then I'll dedicate time midday and end of day. I'll block out 15 to 20 minutes on my calendar twice a day to engage with other people's content and connect with people and so forth. And then anytime we have a new opportunity created by anybody on my team, I go connect with those buyers on LinkedIn immediately and offer myself up as a resource.
Yeah. Are you using any tools to automate some of these things, or are you just strictly doing this manually?
We're adding a couple, but I'm a strong believer in not going full automation on the networking side of things, because it's very easy to tell when somebody is being disingenuous. For example, if you look me up on LinkedIn, my first name has a cell phone emoji in front of it. And that's by design, just to weed out automation and spam. The LinkedIn algorithm thinks my first name is cell phone emoji and my last name is Zach Barney. So I can't tell you how many hi cell phone commas like connection requests I get, or if their automation can't read the cell phone, it'll be hi question mark or hi space comma, because it can't fill it in, doesn't know how to interpret the emoji. And then there's all of this messaging that, they're clearly trying to personalize it. Like, it's not really personal if you didn't even take the time to know what my actual name is. So I'm a big believer in not doing that, but I definitely have systematized versus automating that process to go fast without being disingenuous.
Yeah, I have a very similar thing. I have a like an umbrella after my first name. So I see a lot of Samuel with an umbrella next to it. As soon as I see that, I already know how they reached out to me. But you said systematizing. Can you give us a little bit about that system that you built that's working for your organization?
Yeah, it starts with just the calendar blocking and making sure, okay, my expectation is I'm connecting with 10 new people today. I am reaching out to these people today. And any of my new connections, I'll put a reminder in to engage with a piece of their content the following day and so forth. So I'll build those reminders naturally into my calendar. And we're in terms of content publishing, our team does a good job at unifying around different content, different like software updates, events that we're doing and so forth, but we give the team their own flexibility on how to word it and use their own voice. So we have a central repository when there's a new article, a new publication, a new event announcement or whatever, and everybody has access to that with some suggested language, but they can say whatever they want.
Makes sense. So obviously you mentioned you worked at all these different organizations and you saw this opportunity where people are spending money on events. They go bring back a bunch of business cards, don't know what to do with it. And then a lot of wasted opportunities because the salespeople don't know what to do after that. And somebody is responsible to maybe upload to the CRM, no attribution of where that lead ever came from, what they were interested in, a whole slew of problems. I know there's already event vendors provide like some sort of a scanner that gives you some level of data of who was there at your booth. Why do we need a technology like Moly?
So when you go to an event and you pay 20 grand to sponsor it, and then they give you whatever lead retrieval is provided, sometimes they'll charge you for it, sometimes they won't. The customer of that lead retrieval software is the event themselves, not you as the exhibitor. What I mean by that is, let's just say Cvent. They're the biggest player in that space, in event tech. And let's say I'm hosting Marketing Con, whatever, right? I, as the runner of Marketing Con, will spend $100,000 to purchase Cvent for that event. And then I can turn around and resell that for whatever I want to all of my exhibits. So I can give it to them for free and just build that pricing into their sponsorship packages. I can charge them per user. I can charge them a flat fee, really whatever I want to do. But since I am the customer, and let's say I have 30 exhibitors, there is no way Cvent is going to spend the time building customizations and integrations for all 30 of those customers. Just fiscally, it does not make sense for them. So what I would be stuck with as an exhibitor is this app that I use one time for the event. Sometimes I'll have to share the license amongst a couple of people or use it on one device that we keep at the booth. And then at the end of the event, I just export a spreadsheet, and then I have to clean up the spreadsheet. People register with Samuel's burner account 19 at hotmail.com, all stuff like that all the time. So you're spending a bunch of money enriching that data, cleaning it up, matching it to your CRM fields, uploading it to your CRM, deduplicating it, and finally going through the assignment process. That process takes the average company 11 days. The average human attention span is 8.25 seconds. So there's this massive disconnect because just like literally because of that current process and industry setup that causes companies to take way too long and spend way more money than they should be just to follow up with what was a super hot lead. Whereas with Moly, we've completely flipped that process on its head. We are selling to the exhibitors in an annual subscription, and they can take Moly to every one of their events. So they have the same process every time, and they're using us enough to where it's worth it for us to build that CRM integration. Now, when I go scan your badge at an event, Samuel's popping into my CRM within a couple of minutes, fully enriched, tagged properly, and any of my automations and assignment rules just kick off like that instead of any sort of manual, expensive process. One of the big secret sauces, it's not really a secret, but one of the big differentiators outside of us selling to exhibitors versus the event host is we don't tie into the events registration database. You're never going to have Samuel's burner account 19 at hotmail.com because we don't use that registration data. We use a technology called optical character recognition, OCR, same technology used in like mobile check deposits, just to read the image from a badge or a business card, convert it to text, and then we are the data provider. We're enriching 20 plus fields of contact information through nearly 24 partnerships and a team of live human beings to make that lead the highest possible quality lead in the right format every single time.
I've never heard of that sort of a platform or product available, because what you just described, because you're not waiting on them to give you their name or email address or phone number or anything. You just want their full name and the company. And then rest of them, you're able to now use that to, I guess, your access to your database of all these leads, and then be able to enrich and say, okay, this is the CEO of this company. This is their direct dials, their email addresses, and
social media,
everything.
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So then that data is getting fed into whatever the CRM of choice, and then now you're able to immediately trigger some sort of a workflow or an automation to say, thank you for visiting us, and then anything else that needs to happen behind the scene in the CRM.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, you can actually send one-off engagement from the app. So I might have a generic follow-up campaign in outreach that's kicked off every time I scan a lead at a particular event and it's marked as a hot lead. But maybe I'm hosting a dinner for the super hot prospects later that night. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this gal, I definitely want her to come to our dinner. So you scan her lead, tag it, whatever. We know she's going to be added to that sequence. I can also send her a follow-up text, and I can initiate that text right from Moly. It's going to log that activity back to my CRM as well. If I call her, if I connect with her on LinkedIn, if I send her a Calendly invite, whatever I want to do, I can initiate from the app in near real time and have a record of what's actually going on when people are just working off of their cell phones instead of their laptops.
Yeah, I can see this being a very useful. What number of events that someone has to do in a year to make the subscription worthwhile?
So our typical ICP is doing at least 10 events a year, but we have a handful of customers that do 2 or 3. The beauty of Moly is it doesn't have to be an official event with badges or whatever. You can literally take Moly on an airplane and meet somebody there and get their lead added to the system, or at lunch. Like, it's so agnostic to the event that it really is just, I call it your best friend for face-to-face businessing. Anytime you're at a place where you might meet somebody face-to-face, you can use Moly to capture their contact info. Even if there's no badge, even if there's no business card, you can just type in their name and company name and the same exact thing happens.
So then are you charging per seat? And I'm assuming it's a mobile app. How does, so it's a company subscribes and then all the employees are able to have access to it?
Yeah, no seats. We learned very early on that's not the right way in event tech, because I might have 1,000 employees, but I might only have 50 that go to events, and most of them only go to 2 or 3. So there'd be a lot of license sharing and complexity there. So instead, we base it off of company size and estimated volume of events, and then we give unlimited access to their team. Yeah, everybody on the team would have access, There's a web app where the admins go in, they create the events, assign users based on each one of those events, so it doesn't muddy up their mobile app for events they're not a part of. And they can also run reports and configure their integration. And then the mobile app, both iOS and Android, is where reps literally download the app, they log in, and they will see the events that they are a part of, can add leads, can tag leads, and can communicate with their leads all from the app.
And I like the just being out and about, meet a prospect, being able to put their information, and it actually just goes to my CRM, and I don't have to worry about enriching or anything like that. So I'm curious if you're using some sort of a email validation behind the scenes to verify that email is accurate before you add it to HubSpot or whatever CRM.
Yeah. Our enrichment process is incredibly complex. 21 different data partners. So what happens when a lead is added to our system and our OCR converts their name and company name, it's going to hit the first 3 main data provider partners of ours in a waterfall type fashion. Think about building like a clay workflow without having to build the clay workflow. It's going to enrich all of those without you having to do any thinking. Then it hits the desk of our analyst team. Nearly every single analyst on our team either has or is pursuing a master's degree in a field like information systems. And what they're doing is they're helping train our OCR model. If you use OCR to read an attendee badge, oftentimes it'll read the event name as the employer, or attendee, or exhibitor as your job title. So they're helping to train that model and simultaneously check for recent job changes and so forth. Once they validate that initial enrichment was good, they'll hit save and it'll go to the CRM. If it's not a good match, if the person changed jobs a month ago, so that whole waterfall is wrong, then they have 18 additional tools that they can pull from as needed to fill in that lead manually for you.
I'm assuming you're building some AI to be able to automate some of those as opposed to having to use human capital.
Yeah, absolutely. OCR in and of itself is a machine learning application, and we're building quite a bit of complexity there. And then we have things such as email syntax guessing and so forth that plug in as well to make that super efficient. But it's actually a really cool advantage that we have. There are a few companies out there that have said that they compete against us, and then they'll tell their buyer, and everything's AI. You don't have to wait on a human like you do with Moly. We're like, that's actually a good thing that we have humans, because AI isn't where it needs to be yet. And I would much rather it take a few more minutes and have the data be accurate 98% of the time versus be instantaneous and be accurate 70% of the time. And I would say most people would agree with that.
Yeah, obviously garbage in, garbage out. We all know when you have a prospect that's undeliverable email and the phone number is incorrect, and it's just it's garbage. Nobody want to waste time.
It's a mess. Like, why did I spend that money? I can't do anything with this lead.
Exactly. So let's talk about events in general, because I know events are expensive, and very few organizations are actually willing to invest the time and resource. And then on top of that, like you said, very few know how to actually maximize what comes out of an event. So how do people think about events as a marketing channel or go-to-market strategy, and how to best approach those things from a marketing perspective?
So according to Deloitte's most recent CMO survey, in-person events are actually the single biggest line item in a marketing budget today. They represent more than 20% of all marketing spend. And that's roughly like a 55-45 split between third-party and first-party event. Third-party meaning I'm exhibiting at somebody else's event or attending somebody else's event. First-party meaning I'm hosting a user conference or a dinner. So it's a huge line item. But what typically happens is a company will get really optimistic. They will say, okay, we're going to get this many leads and this many deals from it. We're sending these people. This is the swag that we're spending money on. These are our booth properties. This is our travel arrangements, blah, blah, blah. And then since they don't have clean attribution and the technology is so slow and fragmented in getting those leads back, they never get the ROI that they assume they're going to get. And then they do a post-op meeting with the executive team. The CEO says, hi, Mary, how was that event? And Mary says, oh, it was a branding play. Or we had to be there for our customers so that our competitors didn't poach them. That's a load of baloney. The thing is, we didn't have the right technology in place to make it effective for people. So in order to make events effective, you have to really optimize which events you're going to and track the attribution and have clear, solid follow-up plans so that you can stand out from the 50 other people that are scanning that same person's badge. That means not waiting a week, not waiting even 2 days. follow up with them immediately, schedule something immediately, try to close deals on the floor, like push people as far down the funnel as they are willing to go while you are talking to them face to face, and just be super strategic about making sure you have the right people there, not the most senior people. The best people to send to events are going to be SDRs, full cycle account executives, and founders, because those three people rely on talking to as many people as possible about your company for their livelihood versus anybody else in the company.
Yeah, those are some great advice. I know people, a lot of times it's just the marketing people that go there, and then they're not very sales oriented. They're just there to give away some freebies and collect some business cards, and they don't have that hunger as a salesperson would, or even the founder. And so what are some tactics that you've seen to have work that to attract people to show up to your booth? Because one thing to exhibit, the other thing is to actually get some traffic.
So I literally flew back from a fintech event last night, and one of our customers that was exhibiting there, they're a newer company. They only have maybe 10 people, and their booth was awesome. Not that the properties itself were amazing, but they didn't have flyers. They didn't have business cards. I jokingly asked them for a white paper, and they told me to F off. Said, people don't care about that. That doesn't help you stand out from the crowd. What stands out is giving them a unique experience so that they like you and want to continue the conversation because they enjoyed that relationship and that connection. They had Mexican Coke in a ice cold cooler that they were giving out to people for free. The event was in Nashville. One of their founders is a very high level musician. So he was playing the guitar and singing at their booth. People were taking pictures with him, and they were just having fun, engaging conversations. Stuff like that, more premium swag that you only give to the really good prospects is a good thing. And then I'm also a huge believer in sidecar events versus putting all of your money into the booth. So we took 3 of our prospects to a hockey game as part of that event. We didn't have a booth at all. We were the event tech provider, a unique case where they asked us to do that. And then we just took some of our ideal customers there to a hockey game and spent 3 hours watching a bunch of hockey guys beat each other up side by side, rubbing shoulders with them and building that tight connection. You can imagine every time we saw them throughout the rest of the event, there was a fist bump or a catch up versus, hey, can I scan your badge?
Yeah. So I think it's just getting creative. Not everybody's a musician, and sometimes not everybody has a skill. So you said it was a fintech conference, but the founder was a musician. I'm assuming that's because he's in Nashville. But just creating a unique experience is more important than just giving away some freebies or having some brochures. But also, what can you do pre-event to prime the prospect who are showing up? What kind of things have you seen to work?
I'm definitely a believer in getting the attendee list if the event will give it to you. And one thing you can do in Moly, oftentimes the event will give you the attendee list. It's only minimal data around it. You can upload a CSV into Moly. Moly will enrich it and allow you to do some pre-marketing. But also, we are really big on looking at the event sponsors and people that like just listening on social to see people talking about it and building that connection ahead of time. And then you can do targeted ads on social media based on people that are in a specific location that aren't from that specific location. So if you're at for example, people working in a specific field that are physically in the vicinity of this hotel that aren't living in that hotel, you're like, okay, they're probably associated with this fintech event. And you can run social ads that are targeted based on their geolocation. Anytime they pull up Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, they'll get an ad about us. And we have a very high degree of probability of them being our ideal customer.
Is that usually using just the ad platform's own targeting capabilities, or are you using a third-party tool to be able to do that?
Typically just the social ad platforms.
Okay. So you're just saying, hey, show my ads to people who are not a resident of that city, but is a traveler, right? Like they're
Absolutely.
Understood. Yeah. What was it primarily on LinkedIn? What platform were you using to execute that kind of a campaign?
LinkedIn, and then the whole Meta suite, Facebook, Instagram.
Roughly how much in spend would require to be able to saturate a market for a 2-3 day event?
It depends on the event. For a big fat event like Inbound or something, you're going to be spending thousands upon thousands of dollars, but you also know that all of those people are in your ICP there to spend money. So it's worth it. Like you can set whatever limits you want on the ads, but
Yeah.
I would recommend the pre-event stuff, spending almost as much money as you actually spend during the event.
Yeah. And is it mostly just to target that specific venue as the geo-targeted area? So you know that you're not targeting the restaurant, whoever's staying at a hotel nearby that just flew through that
Typically,
city.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, typically, yeah. That's what I would do. So, yeah, the pre-event outreach, figure out who's going and by any means necessary, and then actually reach out to them and build that connection ahead of time so that it's not a cold conversation when you do run into them. Oh, we were chatting on LinkedIn. We were exchanging emails. Yeah.
Understood. Obviously, you're in the forefront of event marketing. You're seeing what the industry is doing. You've probably saw what happened during COVID and how that entire industry decimated itself. And then now we're back to where there's a lot more activities there. What's your future? Obviously, you mentioned like the Deloitte study and how much of the marketing spend is going toward event marketing. Where do you see is the future of events, and what are some innovations that you're seeing taking place?
I would say the biggest thing that I'm keeping my eyes on is people are steering away, or at least putting less of a focus on the big mega events and doing smaller, more catered events that are just more intimate. They get more value. It's more enjoyable versus walking a trade show floor for 3 days. And like, for example, my friends at Arcadia, they're a husband and wife powerhouse that do business development as a service. They started this group called Arcadia, and it's Sam and Jason Yarborough, by the way. Small little 50-person event, and it was a few $1,000s to attend. It was like $7,500 to sponsor, and only 50 people total there, if that. But you're spending 3 days with the same 50 people that were very, very like hand selected, versus I would much rather have 50 really tight relationships versus 100 badge scans. And I think a lot of people are realizing that, like, the quality is super important versus volume. And I'm seeing a lot more of the micro events and the side events becoming more and more prevalent. I think that's a big one. And I'm definitely seeing a turn away from the virtual events outside of the webinars. But you look at all of the virtual event hosting platforms that took off during COVID. Most of them have exited for pennies on the dollar because people care about face-to-face interaction, and it's just not the same experience as it is face-to-face.
Yeah, hopefully AI is not going to replace all of us, because if we're all going to need to go to events, we can't send a bunch of AI bots like we do on a webinar or a Zoom.
It's one of the ways to differentiate yourself. Like, you think about, there's such a fatigue with AI, right? Mentioned like the automated outreach. People don't know what to trust. They don't know who's real online. And it's really hard for a marketer to stand out, because you have 50 companies that are marketing to the same one person much more efficiently with AI now. That person is just being inundated from all over the place. So if I want to stand out, I'm going to go meet them face to face. I'm going to shake their hand and look them in the eye and buy them a drink. That's how I'm going to build that relationship and be different from all of the new YC bashers that are automating everything.
Yeah. I think we still have hope for humanity, that we all crave relationship and crave real human interactions. I think that's the gist of it, because I know there's a lot of companies working on building AI salespeople. I even saw some video on YouTube where people are actually experimenting where they can have real sales conversations. But I don't know how engaging that is, right? Because if you're talking to an AI, there still comes a point where you need a human intervention to take that.
I think the best use case for AI in sales is as an assistant / agent versus a replacement.
Yeah.
AI enabled humans are going to take over the world for sure.
Yeah.
Not AI in place of humans.
Yeah. I'm using AI tools that help me recap emails from my call and actually able to
Riverside that we're recording on.
Exactly.
Has so much AI built into it with editing. And absolutely. That's the right way to do it.
Certainly. Well, Zach, I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for sharing some of your life lesson and wisdom with my audience.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
This episode of Coffee with Closers is brought to you by One IMS, a leading digital marketing agency helping businesses win new customers. To request a free marketing ROI audit, please visit oneims.com. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. To make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe.